better. Okay. Hi guys, so it's been a while since I've done a video, and I won't be doing a lot of videos for reasons that I've spoken about in the past, and I can go into that possibly in another video. But this is primarily about dating and where I'm at with dating, why I am not dating, and also what it would require for me to date. And I'm hoping that some of you guys can actually relate to that. I am juicing today. It is Super Bowl Sunday, so I'm only juicing the first half of the day, but I am going to be cooking some healthy, flavorful things to stay on my diet. I hope that you guys find this helpful. I'd love to get your feedback on where you're at, if you haven't dated in a while, or if things have changed in your life and you're kind of trying to just really maximize on what's important to you. So I've got basically 5 primary things that I feel like are the most important. And it's funny because I actually went on a date with somebody, and when he gave me his 5 points, although they vary greatly from mine, I had a great deal of respect for him, for being able to say that this is exactly what he wanted. And what that helped me with was to be able to say, okay, well, that doesn't work for me. And I am learning this year in 2017 and also in 2016, as I have attempted to date in the past, just to be able to say what does and does not work for me, and how important it is to do that really at any point in your life. But it's a bit different when you're later in life, like when you're in, I say later, but I'm in my early 40s. You know, I'm not a millennial. I have an adult child kind of thing. So let's get started. So, and I do have a little post-it note here, and if you guys could see the old school way that I stacked these books, it's amazing. So I just want to be able to try to get through it and not without having to edit a great deal of it. I don't want to rant, but I don't know who's going to see this anyway, so I'm just kind of venting before the Super Bowl starts. My team, the Giants, are not in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl, so it doesn't matter. Sorry to everybody else who's a different fan. But anyway, so the first thing is politics. Right? Politics have always been important to me, but have become increasingly more important to me as I've gotten older. I have always voted in the presidential elections as I was able to, since I have been old enough to do so, which is a few elections, I'll just say. This last election was primarily probably one of the most important that I've seen in my life, and because of that, I really needed to know where people's heads were at in regards to their politics and their belief system, because it sets a foundation for what their core values are. And what I was running into was a lot of people's inability to express or explain why they were feeling the way that they were feeling. And not to say that I'm always looking for a husband, but I don't date without knowing the possibility of long term. I'm not a casual dater or a serial dater. I don't live in a lot of long-term relationships. I'm either growing into something or not, and I like to discern that very quickly. And one of the most important and powerful conversations that I've been having with people is about their politics. And it is interesting. I have not really been approached by many men of color in the last year and a half or so. I have primarily been approached by white men, and it is interesting to 2 liberals and maybe 1 Republican, and the Republican was unable to ever explain the basis of his political view, outside of what came off as very chauvinistic and racist. Whether or not he actually knew that was, from what I could tell, he wasn't able to articulate it very well, and that came a lot with people that were actually voting Republican because of who our president ended up becoming. And while I will not fault somebody for having conservative views, I do expect them to have an educated answer, because I need to be able to decide if I can live with that for the rest of my life. And when somebody is looking at you and they really seem to have some strong feelings for you, if your fundamental differences and your political differences are very different, then their core values may not line up with mine. And if that's the case, then I don't really see how that can grow, because I'm not really interested in trying to change somebody from how they feel, with the exception of it being a danger or a disservice to their children. In one particular case, I dated a gentleman who was white very briefly, who also had biracial children, and I gathered that his political views were very much based on how he had been raised and how he had been trained. Unfortunately, he also fell into the demographic of the educational or lack of education of white men between a certain age that we found out later after the election, and that I found that to be a bit of a disservice to his children, who are children of color. And that is foundationally something that I cannot live with. I don't want to spend the rest of my life arguing with somebody about our different political views. However, I am educated enough and will educate myself enough on things that I don't know in order to have an intelligent conversation to possibly find a middle ground or have some understanding. And when somebody's foundation or core values aren't in line with mine at this particular point in my life, I find that it's just not something that I am willing to sacrifice any further. I want to have as much peace in my household as possible. And while some people are very successful in their relationships and having different political views, this particular climate right now is extremely dangerous to me, and I find it even more important to have those same views. I will not say that that's based on him being white specifically. I'll go into the race issue later, but I'll just say in this particular case, he fit a demographic and a stereotype that we had heard a great deal about that I found to be fundamentally dangerous for myself in the long term, and I say emotionally dangerous as well, when you are not able to fully understand or explain why you feel the way that you feel, and you have biracial children. I have a son, a black son, and I feel like in order to have an interracial relationship, which I have in the past, politics and religion are huge things, and you need to be able to have logical and intelligent conversations about it. And I don't want to have those differences in my home anymore. I think I've already gone through my 20s and 30s of times of being very open, and I'm extremely liberal in a lot of ways, and I accept a lot of things, but I don't have to do that anymore, and just not going to do it anymore. That's the first thing. The second thing is, there's 5 things, guys. The second thing is religion. For me, although I say that I'm very liberal, I will say that God and is the foundation of my life. My faith is extremely important to me, and I don't want to sacrifice that anymore. I may change number 5, to be honest. We'll see. Anyway, and what I have found is it's very difficult to have one foot in the church and one foot in the world, or one foot in your faith and one foot in the world. And I know a lot of people have issues with organized religion. I get that. I'm not always at church. I watch church. I watched 2 churches this morning. I'm not at church today, and I haven't been in a couple of months, but those are for reasons that are out of my hands, so I have to watch church online. However, I've been having different types of conversations, even with some friends of mine. Some people go to church and aren't really invested. I did actually try to invite somebody to church with me a couple of times, and I found that I can't go. I need a man that's fully invested in it as much as I am. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be throwing yourself on the altar all the time, and you can't curse and you can't drink and you can't be a human being, because that's part of the journey. I am as well. I'm by no means perfect. I can curse like a sailor. Christian crazy is the worst kind of crazy. You guys know I say that all the time. But I am proud of who I am. I am more apt to date somebody who may be of a different religion. I actually met a gentleman who was driving, I was taking Lyft, who was actually Muslim, but he was extremely kind, and in regards to his belief system, said that he fully believed, like, there's just one God. He said, we read different books, and we may see Jesus as a different person, but I totally believe in him. And it was that open-mindedness that is such a rarity in the conversations that I have had in regards to religion with gentlemen, and not all that I'm dating, but just having the conversation in general. I would like to be able to have a conversation with a man in regards to religion the same way that I would have it with a friend. It's just an open discussion. You have to be able to gauge where somebody is at. And on the other side of that, I want to be able to go into church and know that that person's heart is just as open to God, or hearing and receiving a message, whether it be for them or not. And not just go into it because they're going with me or because I go. Like, you have to go on your own. Like, to me, that's something that I need to share with my partner or husband or whatever. And I am not going to continue to adjust my belief system in Jesus as my Savior to have a relationship. And I have a great deal of respect for men who go in there. Even today, a guy was just sobbing at the pastor's feet. To see a vulnerability there and an openness to know that he knows that there is something greater than both of us, and that the love for me that he has is truly that because of his belief in leading the household, and not a subservient, like, you're my wife and you do what I say kind of thing, but he's vulnerable enough to say that I love you the way that Christ loved the church. I'm just not sacrificing that anymore. And if we are of two different religions, the fact that we maybe can, because I believe in several different aspects of different religions, as far as where you can meditate from, Buddhism, making sure, I love the idea of constantly praying when it comes to the Muslim faith. Like, we say we pray all day, but you have to be dedicated, when it comes to Islam, to taking the time out each day to pray. Like, somebody that has the strength to put you in a position where you feel great about sharing your faith, and making sure that your faith is the tie that binds your relationship. Or that even if they say, I am of a different faith, that they have still been able to say that I am submitting and able to submit to something greater than self. I am tired of hearing people replace things with, well, you call it the Holy Spirit, but it's the conscience or the gut. It is, but it's still like, I can't keep dumbing down or changing how I feel about my faith. Like, I can't do that anymore. That doesn't mean that I won't make human mistakes. I made them all. I cursed so much this morning before, like, nobody's perfect. I may have a cocktail before the game. It's not about that. It's about, I don't want to be asked to sacrifice what I think is, and who I think has given up everything for us to even love and have each other. And I just am finding that. I even had somebody say, well, I'm just going to church, because we're a team. And I'm like, no, like, I can go to church with somebody and know that that person is not feeling anything from the experience. And sometimes you're just not fed. But then there's other times when you are just not, that you're not open to receiving it, or making that a part of our lives. And now I know in my life I have to have it. I'm not interested in other areas of I have learned and studied and made sure that I am educated in different facets of religion, to be respectful and have educated conversations with people about it. It's very important to me to be able to receive and accept the value of other belief systems. However, respectfully, I have mine. And I would like to have somebody that I can share that with fully, and not somebody who's going to ask me to make adjustments to it. So that's huge. 3, going to something a little bit more wretched. Baby mama drama. my thing is, I love kids. If you guys have followed me for years, you know that my son is almost 23 now. His name is Jonah for a reason. I don't know that I've ever explained that. I think I may have explained, why Jonah's name is Jonah, but nonetheless, I am not able to have more children and have not been able to for years. Hold on, I need to drink my juice. So I've always been very accepting of children. Now, the older I get, the more concerned I am about people that have younger children, depending on their age, because you're going to have to spend a great deal of time having an amicable relationship with the mother of that child or children. And that is all contingent upon his ability to have an amicable relationship with the mother or mothers, depending on the circumstances. If they have amicable relationship, that means that I can, and that's awesome. If they don't, then to me that's slightly problematic. I didn't have that. To be fair, Jonah's father was not in his life. I did not keep him out of his life. That was his choice. So I am truly, truly, truly used to being a single parent. I have never had a great deal of anybody contending with how I raised my child. Now, of course, I've been in long-term relationships and people have different input and that type of thing. But at the end of the day, I didn't have somebody where a partner had to worry about me fighting with some guy or arguing with his father about money or time or all these things. And I am going through my own transitions in life, and I would like to be able to have some peace in that. So it's very important to me that they have a good relationship with the mother or mothers of their children, because it determines what I'm going to be facing. And I very honestly know how hard it can be to be on the other side of a difficult parent, even when the parent's not there. So now I'm at the point where I really, really need to be able to focus on what's going on in order for me to give full attention to that person and be a positive influence in that child's life. They have to have a positive relationship with the child's mother. And I am seeing more and more dramatic situations here, things that we heard about years ago that I thought people had kind of gotten past, that now they do not handle well. And for me, that's kind of it's a breaking point. I think what I also want to say to you guys is that you're entitled to have your boundaries, right? So yeah, I hate to say baby mama even, but that's I don't know what else to call, unless they were actually married to the person, which a lot of times they were not. Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. And also it's important to me that they have a very good relationship with their kids. I am extremely deterred by someone who always lets you know that they have kids but doesn't really invest 110% in their kids. I don't care if you pay all of your child support. If you're not a present factor in your child's life, then that's disconcerting to me. I'm going to be the parent that's going to try to encourage you. And I find that in certain situations, if they've already got kind of a pattern and a groove going where they are fun dad, or, they're going to be in the child's life at their convenience. And I have a different relationship with my son. I've always been very close to my son. That's logical. And I have found that some people don't understand that the level of investment that I have in him and his dreams, because they don't have that with their own kids. And so they may want a lot of my time, which is fine, even though my son is an adult, but I'm still present for my child. And I have seen jealousy in certain situations. I have seen people's full-on inability to accept the fact that I just had a close relationship with my son. And sometimes they don't have a good relationship with their mama. So that could be part of it, or there is, like I said, just some jealousy there, and you can't be jealous of the relationship I have with my child. I understand that if I was married, my husband is the leader and that precedes that, but I don't have a husband. And my son doesn't live with me. I don't take care of him. I don't, he's a grown man. And so to me, it's a little disturbing. And it's just not something that I really want to worry about anymore. I want somebody who's secure in who they are, despite what they've been through. I've been through my own hardships. A lot of times my hardships have been way worse than theirs ever were growing up. And I'm proud of the relationship that I have with my son, and I want him to be able to respect the person that I'm with. And he peeps everything. He peeps game. The fourth thing is race, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Because I have dated interracially over the course of my life, guys. Actually, my very first boyfriend from middle school to high school was white. I never really, I don't claim colorblind. I don't believe in that. I think that you have to see the beauty in our differences. But I will say, like, I grew up, he was like my best friend. And over the course of my life, I've dated all types of guys. Now my long-term relationships have been with like 2 white guys and 3 black guys over the course of 40 some odd years. But I've dated I think the only people that I haven't, no, I have been on a date at least with a great deal of races of men. It's like a Benetton ad. Okay, I'm not a hooker. I'm not saying I did anything like that, but I see the beauty. Whatever I'm attracted to it's just because of who they are. It's really something that you just gel or jive with. But again, we are in a different time and we are in a different climate. And I will say that this is the first and I say year, meaning going all the way back to the same time last year, that I have encountered. I have not been approached by black men really at all in the last year. I am kind of, although I check one box as far as being black goes, I know that I'm a bit ambiguous, and it's not always cool to be racially ambiguous or fair skin anymore. Now, melanin, I promote my melanin all the time, but there are situations with black men where I'm just not black enough to them. There's situations with white men where they're looking for like a totally brown skin, beautiful, natural hair, sister, all these things, and I don't fit that box either. So it's been an interesting level of subtle racism that I have experienced, which brought me back to my childhood a lot. But the race issue that I ran into, again, as I said with one gentleman, was that I don't even think he realized he was racist. I think that he felt like because he dated black women and had black children, biracial children, that somehow excluded him from the probability of being racist, when the reality was his thought process and commentary was simply that. What I call it is a slave master mentality, and that's really aggressive, guys. I can't worry about anybody being offended. I just want you to understand, because I also want you to pay attention to it if you haven't. I know that on YouTube, interracial dating is highly popular, but keep in mind that these people are also typically millennials or in their earlier mid-30s, whereas those of us who are later in life and have experienced different levels of racism from like the 70s. I mean, I was born like nine years post the Civil Rights Movement. Like 4 years post the death, actually 6 years post the death of Martin Luther King, if that gives you an idea of my age. I think I got my dates right. So I've seen a lot, not as much as even my mother or my ancestors, and my lineage is very diverse, but at the end of the day, I'm very proud of who I am, and I need to be able to, in order for me to date interracially again, I think that dialogue about race should be wide open, and it's non-threatening unless if you're offended by it, then there's probably something that you've done that makes you offended. For me, it has to be an open conversation, because I need to know where their head is at, and I'm so glad that I'm at that place, because I will force those conversations very early on. I want them to understand that I am proud of who I am, and that doesn't make me anti anything. I want them to see the beauty in the melanin in my skin, just like I can see the beauty in the lack thereof in theirs, or the beauty in something else about them, like to see the beauty in the differences. And I went from one person who I believe to be, I think he doesn't even understand racism on that level. And it's unfortunate, because then you have children of color that you really don't want to fully acknowledge, or don't understand the walk that they're going to have in this world. And if I am going to be in somebody's life like that, I have to be able to show them to be proud of who they are, and not just say, well, like, because I'm biracial, I'm not black, or if I acknowledge that I'm black, I'm anti-white, or vice versa. Like, that's not the point. But you also have to be able to show them that they are walking in a world where people are going to acknowledge that they are black, and they don't want to be, you don't want to shell shock them. And I found that that's not something that I can be a part of, if you're not proud of the beauty in who they are. They look nothing like you, you know. They look more like me, or darker than me, and they have to be proud of that. And to try to remove that from that picture just because you like black women is so disheartening to me. I call it a slave master mentality, because I tried to explain at the time, slave masters loved black women too. It doesn't necessarily mean that they love black people. You know what I mean? I'm just keeping it real. I'm keeping like fully 100 with you guys. And it was just something that I had to remove myself from. It wasn't going to work for me. And that's something I think I want people to start paying attention to, because now we're in a time where people feel like they can say and do anything, and we have to prepare ourselves for that. As much as I want to be able to expound and explore and meet all types of new people, I need those people to be not even tolerant or accepting, but appreciate who I am, so that I can appreciate who they are. Even if there are differences, there's beauty in those differences, right? And when somebody isn't there, I can't do it. Now, on the other hand, other white people, other white gentlemen that have approached me were so intent on making sure that I did not think that they were racist on any level. It was over the top. Like, I was like, just calm down. Like, it's just a conversation. At 42 and a half, I need to know where your head is at. I don't want to be the first black woman that you dated. I don't want to, I'm not racially ambiguous. I don't want you to be trying something new. I need to know that you can handle this, because this is the world that we live in. And I haven't come across that here as of late. I know that it exists because I have friends that have married interracially, and these conversations were had a long time ago. But for me, I can't say where I stand on it anymore, guys. Very frankly, I never thought I would be able to call anybody else a king besides a black man. I just don't know what God has in store for me. I'm also learning, and I'm not perfect. But I want to be able to have the talk with somebody and know what's going on. Still watching my time. Gonna have to cut this. And finally, I teeter-tottered on family and dreams. I think I'm gonna go with the dream aspect. So I had many dreams and was working on a lot of things a couple of years ago. And I sacrificed, and I've done this before, I sacrificed those things that I was working on in order to satisfy what was being asked of me at the time. Unfortunately, these were things that I had invested my heart and soul in, like school and artistry, things that I was gaining momentum on, making money off of. And I had done this before. I had a very bad habit of letting go of what was important to me. And then I would find that I would get out of a relationship and do so much better. Then I'd break up with somebody and finish a degree. And then get back together, and then the world fell apart, and then get back with somebody and then finish or break up and then finish a master's degree. And I almost finished a doctorate, and I let that go. And, you know, YouTube fell down, school went away, job loss has happened, car loss has even happened. I haven't even gone into where I'm at with all of that right now, but what I would say to you guys is no one that truly loves you is going to ask you to sacrifice what is important to you and what you've worked so hard for. I understand if somebody is unstable and they can't ever seem to make up their mind and figure out what they want to do, and the person that loves you wants to just give you some type of direction, or help you get there. But it's something else when you have invested a great deal of your life into getting to a certain point and they ask you to let that go in order to love them. And they don't understand that what you're working towards makes you a better person and makes you better able to love them. And without completing those things or having somebody that supports your dreams, it becomes very difficult to look at them in the same light. And so on that note, I would say, if somebody's asking you to let go of what's important to you, that's not a danger to them, that adds value to you, that's a flag. If somebody is seeing what you're trying to accomplish and says, yes, I will help you get there, knowing that you too will help them get to where they want to be, and they're edifying and adding value to your life, that is what you go with. Your dreams are of utmost importance to you. You're not sacrificing it for, you know, health reasons, or you can't take care of your kids or whatever. And I've learned the hard way, guys, because I have not been able to get back the footing that I had 2 years ago. And it's been pretty daunting. I'll have to do that in another video because this one went way longer than I expected it to, and I apologize. But I don't know when I'll meet that person or if I'll meet that person. There was a time when I thought that I had, which is a whole separate heartbreaking and disappointing situation. But everything happens for a reason. God protects you from certain things. But I just wanted to lay those 5 things on you guys. That's just for me personally, and why, I won't say why I won't date, but why I'm not dating. And hopefully, you know, in speaking the things out loud, I know that God hears me, and it's all about timing. And I'm going through a transition in my own life, a lot of transitions right now. And I hope that He brings the person that fits the rest of the puzzle, you know, based on what my core and fundamental values are. And I hope that you all will do the same if you are in a position of transition or just not sure why or how to find the right person, that you will not, I won't say sacrifice these 5 things or what's important to you, but find somebody who balances that out, right? You know, find somebody that shares at least most of it, of what's important to you, but also somebody that you can learn from and admire and support, and they support you and they admire you and respect you and your values and what's important to you, and don't just say, well, you're really pretty, you know. That's cool too, but that's not what's most important. Anyway, guys, I hope that you find that this is helpful, and I will do another video about some other things here later. But I miss you guys, and I hope that you have a wonderful Super Bowl weekend. I love you, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon. Bye.